Hi everyone. So welcome to Reid's Fly Shop, and it's our first live show this year. Hopefully, we'll do one a month for the rest of the winter. Today's topic is Perdigons. Everyone's probably heard about them. They're a small nymph type pattern that's primarily used in Euro nymphing techniques or nymphing techniques in general. I mean, you can run it below a hopper dropper system, New Zealand style rig ups, clink and dinks. You just size up the Perdigon accordingly to whatever device you're using to float the fly, or in the Euro technique, whatever other weighted fly you're using to get to bottom in a short line technique or in a long line technique. You would use two Perdigons spaced, roughly 20 inches apart, that are of the same weight. So what we mean by weight, pretty much all Perdigons are designed with a tungsten bead head. Depending on the hook size, often will determine the bead head size. But for the most part, 3.8 millimeter, 3.2, and 3 millimeter tungsten beads are what's used on Perdigon nymphs. So the Perdigon itself comes, it's sort of well, I guess it comes out of Spain, out of the Pyrenees Mountains, but it was sort of a Spanish-French invention. And the waters that they fish there are absolutely pristine waters. They're gem clear, very large browns, extremely spooky, finicky browns. So they were designed to fish in 1 to 3 feet of water. But having said that, they will fish 3 to 5 feet of water quite comfortably as well, and both slow, moderate, and relatively fast currents. Just all depends on the Perdigon itself by design and or what other mechanism or fly you use to take it to the bottom. Okay? So the Perdigon itself, as good as the mayfly nymph pattern that it is, sometimes can be assisted with heavier weighted check nymphs or jig type flies, just to get it down into that feeding zone. Those bottom 6 inches of the substrate. Or if you're fishing in emergence, then you would use a long line technique where you would fish 2 Perdigons, usually of the same weight. But the bottom on the top bottom, occasionally the top fly would sort of ride higher up in the emergent level of where the mayflies are emerging. Okay? So emergence doesn't start at the surface, it starts down here, and the bug starts to ascend to surface. I think sometimes we think emergence is always in the surface film area, and partially true, but it's not exclusive to that. So this is where the Perdigons really come in handy. So Perdigons themselves, roughly there's 4 profiles that we tie. We tie them very stout front ends with a larger bead through a short taper on a wet fly hook. We would tie a very stout front end to a long taper, almost 1x long or even a small streamer hook, just to have that extra length in the profile. Then we would have also the other profiles would be a small front end with a short stout body, again back onto a wet fly hook, or a small bead, small profile, long and narrow, again onto a 1x or a streamer style hook. 2x or 3x long. So those are the 4 basic profiles. Traditionally, they were basically just tied with thread, just piled up thread, had a couple of hoppo fibers on the back end. Coq de Leon was the most common tail fiber used. And then there, of course, the pattern matured and grew, and as more people got into tying and developing, they started building them with lots of glitz and glamour. But when you watch the videos on the Perdigons, there was no rhyme or reason to how to tie them. So what I started doing was kind of tried to put in a systematic approach so that when I built my taper, it was very even, very consistent from one fly to the next. And I'll just show you how to do that. We'll do a basic Perdigon. The very first ones I tied and used was in 2013 in the Canadian Nationals in Calgary, and it was the fly that I caught the vast majority of my fish on. One in particular, the open P&Ds out of fluorescent green egg sac, but they'll dive to bottom or crawl underneath the water to lay their eggs. So I knew that hatch was going to be on, so I just basically tied a very simple pattern to mimic that, and it ended up, not that we caught a ton of fish, but in my group of 11 people, of which several had been to Worlds and Commonwealth Championships, they all got stumped except for myself and one fellow by the name of John Nishi. And he was sort of complaining because he got one fish, and I was kind of complaining because I only got 3 fish, but I had lost 7 others. So at the end of the day, everyone kind of praised me for a good performance of catching 3 fish, and I thought it was rather pathetic, but I'll take it anyways, right? So it did win that session, so that was the main thing. I didn't blank. So anyways, what we do is we have coq du lion. You can either run the Indo or the Pardo. So it does come in, you can buy a full cake. You can buy just a small bag of, 5 to 10 feathers. You can just get an assortment, a bunch of tearaways, whatever, however you get it. But the Pardo, we use the coq du lion mostly because it is a stiffer hackle. It doesn't break as easily as traditional rooster hackles or hen hackles. But on the pattern itself, we're only going to run about 3 to 5 fibers. So I'll just get started here. And we basically just start the thread behind the bead head. And we'll just run touching turns about halfway down the hook shank. And at this point, we tie it off or cut off the excess. And like I said, we'll tie in 3 to 5 fibers for barbs of the coq du lion. You don't need a lot. It's important not to overdress this pattern. I'll run 5 just for the sake of the video here.
Why don't you want to overdress it, Gary?
Well, it'll somewhat. It's not as impressionistic to the real mayflies. Real mayflies only have 2 or 3 tails, so we can overdo it. If nothing else, it might just bring, I'm talking about finicky fish. It'll bring suspicion to that pattern. Whether you're tying a gold or tarsier or a pheasant tail nymph, we have a tendency to overtail our nymph patterns. And it's my experience that a pattern that has less fibers is more productive than one that has more. It also changes. If you can put on way too much, and then of course it all alters the behavior of the nymph in the water itself. So, but 3 to 5. So we just lay this on top. We measure it off to be about body length. So I just start with 1 or 2 turns. Make sure that my fiber length is correct, and if it is, then I continue down with touching turns. To the top of the bend, and then with touching turns, I'm going to return back behind the bead, but I'm going to snip off any tip ends or tail ends of the tailing material, and then just come in tight. So this fly really by design is made for rotary vices. So you're doing this by hand. You just do touching turns back and forth. So I've made 1 layer, and I've made a 2nd layer. So at this point, what I'm going to do is just run touching turns. I'm going to balance out my fly here. So what I'm going to do is just bring that thread back till it's about 2 turns ahead of my first initial 2 layers, right? And then I'll return back to behind the bead. And we just go back and forth, and every time we build a pass, we just come a little bit short just to start creating that taper. So it's, like I said, it's a bit of a systematic approach. You don't have to be a great fly tire to tie these by any means. But if you take that systematic approach, it just makes things a lot easier. You won't have a lot of lumps and bumps. And you'll get that nice, thin, conical profile that you're sort of looking for. Oops. So that's basically a very simple Perdigon. And then we just would finish behind the head. This is as basic as it gets. And then we give it a multitude of coats. You can run a UV resin if you like. A lot of people do. I generally tie most of my Perdigons over the winter months, so I've got all winter for them to dry. I think nail polish, just a good clear Sally Hansen's, or go to the liquidation world and places like that, and I just pick up nail polish that's on $1 for a bottle. And I just give it a couple of good coats. Sit upside down so everything rises to the high side or the low side. And that's just a very simple, basic Perdigon. So you can change the colors of thread to suit the insects. Because whenever we're dealing with profiles or selecting a fly, we're always looking at profile, size, and color. So the profile is pretty straightforward. Size is easy to hit. Right? So what color do you want? So in this case, we're bluing all of mayfly adults, or PMD adults in my situation. I knew they were kind of a light watery olive, so I just went that color as an overall attractor color. But in that, with that other one, I had also put on a fluorescent green tag representing the egg sac, again, sort of being a hotspot. So if we keep that in mind, I like to show you how to do the way I do it, to do a tag. But we'll change up the material. So this is, like I said, this is a small bead head, a longer profile, so it's pretty narrow. And, we all know that profile does make a difference in our presentations, in our fly choices. So the next one that I'll do is I'll run a similar bead again, but this time we'll just change up the material, make it a little bit more shiny. The material I'm going to use is called glitter, or micro glit, and it's probably one of my favorite thread materials to use for these kind of patterns. But I like to also throw a hot spot into it. So what I'll run is the classic 6.0 wax, fly wax thread as my base layer, because this glitter thread does have some transparency to it. The orange from this base thread will shine through it somewhat. So you'll not only just have the hotspot tag, but it'll slowly fade out of the orange, moving up into the body. Does it make a difference to the fish? I don't know, but it makes a difference in my comfort level, and I just kind of like, I like fishing flies that I'm comfortable with, and confidence in. So again, bring the thread down about halfway. Take 3 to 5 cocktail fibers. Yeah, I think, the other part, Reid, to your question, I think about why only 3 to 5, I think it's just more realistic, to the actuals. And I think, again, that's just a significant difference, certainly in my mind, in fishing.
Does it affect the sink rate too if you use too much tailing material?
I think that might depend on the actual tailing material. Like, I could see that possibly with hare's ear. If you get it too robust in the back, it would possibly reduce the sink rate somewhat. You know, the whole idea of these things is to get the bottom as fast as possible by having a limited amount of drag on them. The more robust we make the pattern, the less drag we create in it. So again, if we just keep that in mind to reduce the drag, whether it's just running a thinner body material or less, sticky out bits, less places for water to grab, we're just going to have a faster sinking pattern. The whole idea behind all of this, a lot of this, is to get a very small fly, which is the actual food size the fish are feeding on, to bottom. And before Perdigons and a lot of these other flies, we were really challenged to do that. So again, just touching turns, and I'm just going to move up and behind the bead. So that's my base layer. I'll just finish this off here, and I'll change my threads now. I could run 2 or 3 more passes, but I find that 1, 2 is enough, and then I'll just start with the micro gun behind the bead, and then just start up progressing turns. Touching turns, moving forward. And I like to leave about 2 to 3 wraps of that hot spot exposed. You don't need a lot. I find that's more than enough, and then we'll just start moving back again. Touching turns, and behind the hook eye, behind the bead, and then progressing forward. Touching turns and come just short of that layer there, and then progress back again. So again, it's just a systematic approach to building a conical taper. And it just goes a lot easier this way than trying to do it haphazardly. So now we have 3-knot whip finish right at the front, right behind the bead, which we just messed up. We'll just redo. That's okay. Let's take our time. Can't be perfect. So if I do hot spots, I'll do either one at the back or one at the front at the shoulders, but I won't do both. And I think that we want to give the fish a target. I find that if I just fish this nymph pattern without a hot spot when I'm catching fish, then I put a hot spot on. Once the fishing maybe starts to slow down a bit in that hole, I put one on with a hot spot, and all of a sudden I'll catch a bunch more fish. If that slows down, then I'll change it to have one with a hot spot in the front and not one in the back. Again, back into fish. That happens more often than not. It's just rearranging the target for them and just giving them different options. And again, we'll just put a coat of head cement on this. And this is actually this particular color of North Flint and yellow is one of my 2 primary searching patterns. I've caught countless number of fish on this particular pattern, in this pattern color. tie the other one. I'm going to show you how I do that one with a collar hotspot as opposed to a tag hotspot. Put that in there. But we'll make it a little larger just because we can. So we're going to change the profile again. Remember how I mentioned the stout and long, stout and narrow profile. So I've just increased the bead size here. We'll tie basically the same pattern. I'm going to just change the color of the thread. This is the other searching color I'd like to use a lot of. It's a rainbow. Sorry. We have some new threads coming out. They're called peacock. Quill subs, and they come in peacock, two peacock colors: black peacock and green peacock. This is the green peacock here, and this is the black peacock here. So those are the two new colors coming out. I haven't fished with them, but I'm really excited about both those color patterns. But this black rainbow colored pattern, I got onto this from a fellow from Spain who is as a team, he's had 5 gold medals and 3 individual golds the last number of years. World competition. His name is David Arcade. He was nice enough to share this particular pattern with me. I was a little surprised at first because of the color, but once I took it out and started fishing with it, yeah, he was dead on it. It attracts a lot of fish. So it's a general searching pattern for me. If there's nothing hatching, I have nothing going on, and it's either this rainbow colored pattern or the one I just tied earlier. Those are my 2 searching patterns mostly. So again, we just start behind bead, come back down about halfways, gaining another 3 to 5 cocktail fibers. Measure off the body length. And that stays on top. That's the main thing. Okay. You can already see that body is going to be quite a bit longer. So we can imitate by changing the profiles either stout and short, stout and long, narrow and stout, or narrow and short, narrow and long. We can imitate all 4 different mayfly body profiles that are common, whether it be a swimmer, a clinger, not so much a burrower, although we probably could, but the burrowers are very seldom exposed to trout except during the emergence and the hatch, and the crawlers. But those 3 primaries, and, there's a multitude of species in each of those categories that all have, yes, overall the profiles are similar based on species category, but there is a lot of difference in overall size, overall stoutness. Right? So this is where the Perdigon fits in really well to suit a lot of those different mayfly profiles. And again, when I do wing cases on these, I do them on the top of the fly, even if it's a jig fly. Take a jig fly, it will ride in this fashion. So if I tie a Perdigon on it, riding in this fashion, I'll tie the make a wing case on top of it. If I'm going to put on a wing case, I generally don't, as opposed to putting it on the bottom. The reason being is, if we think back about Charles Brooks and Gary LaFontaine, both of them stated very clearly that yes, mayfly nymphs in general tumble, but they also have the ability to right themselves. And there's a lower, and this is the key, there's a lower rejection rate to those mayflies that have righted themselves as opposed to those that have not. So the idea is to reduce your rejection rate. So if your fly rides like this fly would this way up, then the wing case should be on the top. If you're running a jig fly where the jig fly and the hook is hook up, then your wing case should also be on the hook up side. Because again, it's all about reducing rejection rate, not encouraging rejection. So I know there's discussions in many circles about that, but until LaFontaine and Brooks are proven wrong to me, then I probably won't really quickly change my mind unless someone can convince me otherwise. I like the idea of lower rejection rates as opposed to higher rejection rates. So again, we're just building those layers as we had done before, just going back and forth down the hook shank. So the other thing I do with my head cement at times, if I'm just going to sit and tie Perdigons for a few days, is I'll reduce the nail polish or the head cement by cutting it with about 20 to 25% acetone. And what happens then is it actually will sink in deeper and penetrate deeper into the body and actually right to the hook shank, so the fly becomes really quite solid. So this is one of those flies that you can tie that I've got Perdigons that have cut tons and tons of fish that are probably 4 or 5 years old right now. They last forever. So it's a bulletproof fly, really, in a lot of ways. So there's that bit of a stout, long body. Stout because I just use a slightly larger bead. And this is the one we want to put a hot spot on. So could run 6/0, but I'm probably better off running 8/0 to build the hot spot. And again, I don't want a lot of, or even 12/0 thread. I don't want a lot of hot spot at the shoulder. I do want some, but I don't want it overly large. And when you see hot spots being built quite often, they can get quite large. And that's only because the wrong size thread was selected to build that hot spot. Keep the collar size down, relatively small. It doesn't have to be overly large. And again, once we're done here, put a coat of head cement on. So if I had 3 flies lined up on a little turn that I use a little foam mat, clip them in. Every time I tie a new fly in there, I give it a coat, put it in that mat. And then at the same time, I'll give those other 1, 2, 3, 11 flies another coat of head cement at the same time.
Clay has a question for you, Gary.
Mm-hmm.
He was asking, what would you say the 3 best colors are for people starting out tying these patterns?
Again, that's probably a matter of opinion, which would be subject to the water that you fish, or certainly the water that I fish. My first 3 are these 2, and then probably I like a black and red.
It's like that pale sort of PMD yellow.
Yeah, the PM, yeah. It would change by season. But I really like for another searching color is just black and red.
Okay.
Especially when there's a lot of insects moving about. If they're damaged and wounded and hurt, because of winds or rain or whatever, if they're messed up somehow from the hatch, then I will go to a black and red or claret and black. Kind of the traditional British BBL colors of black and red, which is used a lot when hatches have become stagnant or damaged. It's just one of those attractor colors that really works well. So, but yeah, you can build this in a host of natural colors. So, we talked about just this stuff here, but if you look at Hems has come out with a bunch of Perdigon material. So here's a variegated gray. It's a light gray and a dark gray. They call it a body quill. It comes in 1/69 inch size. There's a tan, a light tan and golden color. There's a darker brown and tan. There's a yellow and olive. This here, so you can match any body color to a mayflower unit if you want. There's material out there to do that. And then if you want to even change that up, there's even a purple. Look at there's a purple and kind of a light, clear, light yellow, amberish color. And again, different variegated colors, in browns and yellows and browns and kind of a light olive. So there's a thousand. This is as versatile a fly pattern as you're going to get in all its basic principles, just to match size, color, profile.
And you have bead color too.
Sorry?
And you also have the bead color too. That you
also have bead color that you can play with, right? So, you can run orange beads as a hot spot if you want. Or, I like a lot of black nickel and a lot of copper, mostly because when you go to a lot of the fly shops in a lot of areas, they talk about running, let's say, a print sniff, a bead-headed print sniff, or a bead-headed something. Almost invariably, it's always a gold bead-head. Very few places carry a silver bead-head. So if gold is being thrown all week in the print sniff, the fish are going to catch on to it. I won't run gold. Just because the fly shop guy, I'm not criticizing the fly shop guys, but you tell 1,000 people to go out there and run a gold one, a gold beadhead, the fish are going to catch on. By the time I get there, they should be smartened up somewhere. So I'll make these subtle changes by going to a copper beadhead or black nickel beadhead. Those are the two colors I default to when the fish have been pressured from gold or silver. I default to copper and black nickel, and then I'll default from there into fluorescent orange or chartreuse or even olive beadheads. So it's just making that little bit of difference that often puts you back into fish. So as basic as this is, as we showed, so this is one with a collar in the front. The other thing that's really interesting is everyone's familiar with Lance Egan's Rainbow Warrior and the way the body's designed. I call that the warrior effect. Because you can take any mylar and put it on any thread and get a huge host of color combinations that are absolutely crazily stunning and effective on fish. It doesn't have to be red with a pearl mylar. You can run yellow threads, orange threads, green threads. You can run red mylars, red-based mylars. You can run peacock pearlescent mylars. You can run a darker blue-green mylar. You can run a yellow mylar. You can run a purplish mylar. There is a host of mylars that are designed for the Perdigon fly tying business, the fly tying philosophy, that again broadens the aspect of tying Perdigons to suit your water, whether you're playing with color and size to attract fish, or whether you're trying to go with something more realistic or natural by using the variegated. So, but don't forget, if you tie a nymph, a blue-winged olive nymph, it does not have an olive body, and it does not have blue wings. You need to reestablish. Most of our fly tying, when we're talking about color selection, is based around dry flies or the adult mayfly stage. It's not based around the color selection of the nymphs. So on the Bow River, the blue-winged olive nymph is actually yellow and brown. So there's no olive. it's a light amberish brown, but it's yellow and brown. So if that's the case, then I would tie with this variegated body color to imitate the color of the nymph. Okay? So most nymphs are going to be olive, light olives, dark olives, and yellows, or different tones of browns with yellows, or different tones of browns with maybe slight orange or reddish in them. There are some black ones with some orange and red in them. But really do your studying on your nymphs for your water that you fish and match those colors to the nymphs, not to the adult dry, because it's a completely different game, different color altogether. Okay. So what we'll tie next is we'll do a rainbow warrior style of pattern. We'll do it on a jig fly. So when you place this, you got to make sure that this bead head sets up properly so that it will pull the fly to the rated side. And we're going to run this new peacock thread that's brand spanking new. It's not. It's just starting to come out in the world. So this just came out, the latest fly jam, and that stuff is extremely. Make sure that your bottom has a good even flow to it, otherwise it'll tear easily. So, I'm actually pretty excited about this color. As everyone knows, peacock pearl is getting more and more difficult to come by. There isn't probably going to be one thing created in the synthetic world that is going to substitute peacock in every situation, in every case. There will probably be a multitude of different peacock-oriented products to suit the different needs of where we would use peacocks, whether it be wet flies or dry flies, nymphs, wherever have you. Again, 3 to 5 fibers. Sure that's sitting on top so it's not too long. And touch and turn to moving back forward now. Clip off that section is cut the yarn fibers right at the bead head. And then just start building layers again, just like we have with all the other ones. Just have to make sure that thread, when it comes up on the bead head, it sets the bead head in the right position to function as a jig. Now you can secure it in place ahead of time just by getting a small pen adapter for UV applicator and just put a small blob of UV resin right in the slot, and then just give it a burn. So you use it like you would a welding torch type of application, and it just fits. It will just hold the bead in position as you're tying. You don't have to play with it or mess with it. So one of the reasons I like this pattern, these types of patterns, is because they're simple, they're easy to tie. I can zip off a whole bunch of them in a hurry and go fishing. I'm not spending hours and hours tying. Half a dozen flies in this take me 30 minutes maybe. Again, just going back and forth, building those layers as we're building this fly. So you do, as you can tell, you go through a lot of thread. It takes a lot of wraps to build it. Look, too used to working with nanos. Way too used to. But this stuff will also be coming in different sizes, in kind of like a braid, like a flat braid. So if you want to work with something a little larger and more robust, that will be available in the same color. Pretty boring, huh? You just go round and round and round and round and round. So with all this thread on it, does make a very, very solid body on the fly pattern. I mentioned it's virtually indestructible. So one of my buddies who fishes the Raven and Stauffer probably 4 to 5 times a month. He runs a ton of Perdigons down in that area, whether on a jig fly or on a standard hook, standard wet fly design. Again, runs 1x, 2x strong hooks because of the overall size of the brown trout in there. He's running both long line and short line techniques. The Raven and the Stauffer are not just dry fly water. Certainly a good dry fly water, but it's not exclusive to. Some days you can't get a fish to move to a dry fly in those waters down there, so it's probably smart to try that Euro Olympic, either long running or short running. It certainly does work, and it works exceptionally well. So that's the Peacock. The new Peacock material is coming about. Again, if you want the hot spot, that we're going to put the hot spot at the tail. I showed you the procedure earlier. If you're going to put the hot spot at the front end, I can do that here now. I really like this color. It's just be magic this coming summer. See the little coat, and again, like I said, once this dries, if I was to put a wing case on here, I don't think it's necessary because I like the idea of just no matter which way the fly is, if I lose control, whether it's right side up or tumbling. The whole idea of tying it in the round like this, it just the fish have no way of distinguishing whether it's right side up or wrong side down. So the rejection rate should be lower. That's the whole idea. Reduce that rejection rate. Once you put a wing case on, it identifies an up or a down side. Even my pheasant tail nymphs, my bull-ribbed harriers, I personally do not tie wing cases on. So I don't want an upside or a downside. I want it in the round so that when the fly gets thrown around and starts tumbling because of different current conversions, or if I've lost control of my fly, it always looks right side up to the fish to reduce the rejection rate. That's the whole idea. Wing cases and all that stuff are great. I mean, it's really interesting and nice over time, absolutely. But I think for myself, I'm just speaking for myself for a practical sense, wing cases to me are obsolete. I just don't use them. I don't find that they make a difference on whether or not the fish will take them, but they might make a difference on whether or not they'll reject them. So, another fly. We're going to do, I think I mentioned I was going to do, I'll do one with a fluoro orange bead. We'll do the rainbow version this time. I'm a little sidetracked with the excitement of that peacock green. Okay, so a little larger bead, so it'll make the overall profile a little shorter and stouter looking because of the profile of the bead. And we'll just run, I'm just going to run just a basic standard UTC 7/8 denier thread. This is what's called the watery olive. Unfortunately, they don't make it on a 140 denier, but it's a good flat thread that'll work on these kind of patterns. Gain 3 to 5 fibers in the tail. So all we do is bring fibers to a 90-degree angle from the quill and just tear them away. Match up the tip ends. Once you bring it to 90, and make sure that's on top. Make sure it's the right length, not too long, not too short. Touch at the top of the bend. Progressive turns. Come forward. It'll take a while to build this up, so have patience. Back to a flat position. Just easier if you can keep your thread in a flat position to build those layers. It does cause you to use a bit more thread. The thread's not roped, but it does build a better fly as well. There's actually a couple of ways of doing, well, we can do the Rainbow Warrior one, and I'll show you the way I like to do it with the Mylar tinsel. It's not, doesn't engulf the whole body, it just has a strip down the top with the Mylar tinsel. And again, it's just altering the tying procedure and how we're going to secure that in.
Do you always use tungsten for these, Gary, or do you do any with these too?
I will use brass beads if the fly is going to be designated to fit on a shoreline technique where I have another heavy fly taking it the whole system to bottom. But if it's not for that purpose, then they're all tied with tungsten. But generally, I would use it more on a long lining technique if it has tungsten versus brass. And the brass I would use on a short lining technique, so I already have the weight to get that fly to bottom. Just building that taper. It's going to take a while. A lot of build up to do this. Cleaner that conical shape that you have, just better off in some of the tying procedures so that everything will lay down properly and fall into place nice and smooth and flat. Again, like I mentioned, we don't want to create anything with a bunch of sticky out pieces for water to grab. We as smooth a finish as possible. That's the whole idea behind the Perdigon, to reduce that drag, get to the bottom. Yeah, they're not fancy, they're not difficult by any means. Commercial tires don't like tying them because they're time consuming. Not so much on tying them, but if you're putting 3 or 4 coats of nail polish on it, the drying time, the application. UV resins are okay. I have found, depends on the situation, some UV resins will crack between coming from hot air temperature going into very cold water, so I don't care for that. Eventually it'll just fall off, so that leaves your fly very much unprotected. So I think it's not, to me, UV resin is not the be all to end all. It does fit in some places, and there's other places it just doesn't fit. You just have to be cognizant of that. And look at basic physics, hot, cold, expansion, contraction. It's pretty simple. We all took that in high school in our science classes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a rainbow effect on this with, not so much a rainbow effect, we're running a light green olive thread. We're going to run a red mylar tinsel, reddy orange. There's a brighter red than this as well, but this one's more of a red orange. This is 1/32 inch in diameter, and it also comes in 1/69. It's a little nicer to work on smaller flies. So the way I apply this, just in behind the bead head here. So you can cut yourself a piece of length and just go hand over hand, or you can use your rotary function. Travel down the taper. And then back up the taper. So we've got a double layer. Come up right behind the bead head. Oops. Turn that off. Okay, I messed up. We're going to start all over. How about that?
It happens.
Yeah, it happens. Absolutely. You can see just how, I've got to cut off 4 extra inches just to work with this, but it shows you how much mylar you're actually using on this pattern, right?
Yeah.
It's quite a bit. Yeah, start again. Don't want it to jump. So we just work it back. Hold that tight there. Once around the back, once around the front, once around the back, once around the front. Do that 3 times. That'll scissor lock it all in place. 3-knot whip finish at the front. Put a snug. We're good to go. So that's the rainbow effect. Like I said, you can just change up the color of threads, change up the color of mylars. It just opens up a whole new world on the warrior effect and on the Perdigons themselves. You just mix and match whatever you have for materials and threads to suit your needs, and get as close to, as you can to the real McCoy, or not. You can run it as an attractor pattern or not. It's really up to you. All I know is that these are an exceptionally effective pattern that I love to fish. And they've caught me fish through all of Canada. And they caught me fish when I was in Europe. And so they'll just work anywhere. I know right now Team Canada's down in Tasmania fishing World Championships. I know for a fact they're going to be using Perdigon nymphs in the Tasmanian waters. One more. The way I like to do my mylar finishes on these is a bit different. I'll do the one that I like running for the Bow River, for the blue winged olive hatch. No, I can't. I'm going to run it without a tag. So normally I would have, like I said, a chartreuse tag, but I didn't bring any chartreuse fluoro green thread. It's a little dry and staticky here today. You see the thread lifting all by itself? Static. There's something in the air. Okay, so this is an easier tie for me for the mylar effect on the patterns. I think sometimes, as great as that warrior effect is, I think there are times it can be too much, too flashy. So when I like to reduce it, I still like to have some flash, but I'd like to tone it down a bit. So I do that by doing it this particular way, and I'll show you how to tie here. And I do this also, not just on this pattern, but I do that also on a lot of my chronic type patterns. I still might want flash, but I don't want to overburden the pattern with flash and make it too glitzy. Lots of patience just tying this down. So you could use 100 denier thread if you chose to. Obviously, the thicker the thread, the more space it takes up, the less layering there will be, less overall volume. But I generally tie these patterns from a size 10 down to a size 18. I use mostly 12, 14, and 16s, this pattern in Alberta. Overseas, I'd probably run 16, 18s, and 20s, depending on what part of the world I'm in. Even down in the States, down in California, now I'd run probably more 18s and 20s. Just because the overall mayfly note size down there is considerably smaller than it is in this part of the northern hemisphere. Can you hear me fine?
Yes.
Yeah, rotary function just on your device just makes this a lot easier, a lot faster. One of the reasons I went to a rotary vise was because of flies like this. It gets really hard on the shoulder. And eventually I was developing rotor cuff issues, and that's what originally pushed me into a rotary vise in the first place. Getting old. Okay. Slowly getting there. We'll do. So I'll just lay it in on top and tie it forward. That. And I'll just continue building my body up. Okay, I'm getting there. Yeah, so you don't have to be in a bold metal fly tire to tie these things by any means. They're just, I like tying flies. They're fast, simple, easy, and catch fish. So my last layer, I go all the way down to the bottom, right at the beginning of the taper. Okay, and I'll rope my thread. Make sure it's good and tight. Pull my mylar strip down on top. And now I will take, it's probably fresh. I want to give it a bit of a that's my preferred tinsel and mylaring effect in a lot of situations. And I'll start with something that's got the full body warrior, but if I feel I still need a bit of flash, then this is the way I'll do it. So see that? You can see the ribbing in there, and that holds down your mylar on top. Just a very thin strip of mylar straight down the top. And again, just change up the colors however you want. Use the yellow mylars, the peacock mylars, the blues, the purples, the reds, the oranges, the opal, pearlescent, whatever you want. Just give it a few coats of head cement and we're good to go. Very simple, very easy, very effective pattern. You can see all that. It's a lot of glitz with a single little strip across the back.
Should pass it around after.
We can. I'll leave you all these flies when you're taking fishing. Okay. Half the pliers through it. So yeah, it's very, very straightforward. It's, when you think about it, it's extremely versatile. You're mixing the beads, mixing mylars, mixing threads, mixing profiles. You could probably, just with those combinations, you could probably come up by yourself with a couple of hundred different variations by tomorrow. It's amazing. And the simplicity of it is really unique. Like I said, you don't have to be an advanced fly tire. Just follow that step of building those layers, just reducing with every layering around. Pretend you're being a bricklayer and you're going to lay down a foundation base. and you lay the second layer on top, you're going to be brick short. And you lay another layer on top, be a brick short. Another layer on top, be a brick short, and eventually you'll just get that natural taper, right? Every time you come a brick short. We don't always want to be a brick short, but in some applications it helps, right? So.
You've always built it from stout to thin, right? That kind of a taper, always.
Yeah, that's the traditional Perdigon styles. I think if it took a different format or a different profile, it probably wouldn't be called Perdigon any longer. So the whole idea, if you look at that, it's a hydrodynamic profile. What cuts through water fast? A big bead breaking the water tension, the surface at the start, and then everything, the vortex flow behind it reduces, and so it just allows it to go down fast. Right? So yeah,
they build submarines,
which is why they work so well, because it gets down so quick.
Hydrodynamic profiles are very, very simple. Don't make them too complex. Stout and short, stout and long, narrow and short, narrow and long. Those are the 4 basic profiles that we're doing. They're all teardrop shapes, right? Really, at the end of the day, they're all teardrop shapes. And that teardrop is what helps cut through the water very quickly by reducing drag and by not having a whole bunch of stuff sticking out from the fly for the water to grab to reduce the drop rate. The water's pretty dense, right? Doesn't take much to start reducing drop rates. So yeah, very simple, very easy. So I hope that kind of clears the mud on Perdigons somewhat. Enjoy the time. It's like I said, it's one of my absolute go-to nymph patterns, no matter where I fish, no matter what province, what state, what country, what part of the world. I've always got Perdigons in my box. For sure, the rainbow. For sure, the yellow. Those are my 2 primary searching patterns. The red will be kind of a tertiary searching pattern. And then a host of natural colors tied with the variegated thread. We could actually probably do one with the variegated if you want, just to show you the difference.
For sure.
I'm not sure how much time we still have.
Still got some time.
I'm going to do a long one to imitate Western green drake nymph, which is kind of yellow brownish in color. It's long and it's narrow. It's not short and robust. This will just show you the effect of this variegated material. It's called a BQ56. I don't know if you can see that. It's a very good color to imitate Western green drakes in our part of the world here on the east slopes of the Rockies. Just find the end. It is a pattern I like to tie a hotspot on with.
Why is that?
Because often when I fish them, it's in fairly moderate to fast flowing water. Usually in what I call curtain water. That's those pools and runs where you get a lot of converging currents where the water kind of turns white. Well, that white is like a curtain. It actually goes quite deep. And the hotspot will shine very quickly through the white curtain water. So that's sort of the main reason I like running hotspots on that kind of water. It just easily attracts the fish to the pattern while it moves by fairly quick. Hopefully they don't have enough time to sit there and distinguish whether it's a hook or a nymph. An hotspot gives them a targeting position in the faster water. I think that's static, or is that your fan?
Winter.
Yeah, winter in northern Canada, cold and dry. So again, as I mentioned, I like hotspotting this pattern. I mean, you can time with or without, it's up to you. I make the tails on these a bit longer. Not much. And 3 to 5 fibers. Make sure that it stays on top by holding the cocktail up at a 45-degree angle that allows them just to stay on top in the hook shank as they're being tied in. And just go touch and turns all the way up. What I'm going to do is build this up a bit more with a heavier thread, so I don't use as much of that. And this is the 8-aught. I'm going to just flip over to the 6-aught. Just more thicker thread, it just builds up body faster. And I can still build the same taper. There we go. So hopefully this will use up a little less thread. It's a little easier on the pocketbook. It's only thread. It's not the end of the world if you use a bunch of leverage. But I'm going to open up my spacing a little bit more because I want this to be a long, narrow profile. So I don't want to build it too robust or stout. So when I go back, instead of having one brick short on the layer, I'll go 2 or 3 bricks short on the layer. So again, by profile, it'll imitate these types of nymphs strictly with that long, narrow profile, and then the color. And hopefully their size is correct. Right? Okay, so now I'll just change over to this variegated. And you'll see there's a light and a dark section to it. So again, we just go down to touch and turns. a small little orange hotspot tag at the back. Back up.
So two different hotspot techniques. One using a tag, and the other one
Using shoulder.
yeah.
Yeah, one or the other, not both. It's something I learned on hotspots years and years ago. So I try to finish it off so that the darker portion of the variegated is up near the front. This will hopefully imitate the thorax and the wing cases. Again, if it goes all the way around, it's sort of in the round in the tying philosophy. So this is more of a natural, like I said, a natural colored Perdigon, and this is the color I use for the Western green drakes. This pattern on the North Round was exceptionally effective. This year would have worked well on any river with a Western green drake hatch. I'm just picking this around. This just happened to be where I was fishing that day, but I've used this on a number of times on that particular hatch on different water bodies. There we go. A little bit more natural in appearance, isn't it? You know, I think for Western Canadians and North Americans, maybe we probably resonate a little bit more to this because we're so accustomed to try to tie to the natural as close as possible, whether it be in color or shape, profile, or definitely in color. We certainly tendency to lean more in that direction, as opposed to using attracting colors, like the rainbows and the glitter. We're not accustomed to playing with color in that fashion because we've been worked on very heavily for a number of decades of matching the hatch. So it's kind of instilled in us to do that. And so you can do that with Perdigons by, just, if that's the way you prefer to tie or the way you like to tie, that's what makes you happy, then yeah, by all means, go ahead and do it. A Perdigon doesn't have to be black and blue or red or yellow or whatever. It can be however you want to make it. So that's again just part of the versatility of the pattern. Just the tying procedure doesn't change much. A little bit when you're putting on hot spots, a little bit when you're putting on the Warrior effect or the Mylar strip back, right? But for the most part, 95% of it's all the same stuff, round and round and round. Like I said, so. Again, simple, easy,
Effective.
The way it fades.
Yeah,
The other.
it's that long, elongated teardrop profile, right? And we'll just cut right through the water.
You couldn't miss that.
No. That's tied on a 2x strong hook as well, right? So you have that little bit extra weight from hook gauge.
Mm-hmm.
Not a whole lot, but it's not going to make a big. Still water would make a big difference. It's not going to make a big current. But yeah, simple, easy. I think that's one of the great things about the European tires and anglers. They think things like this through and make it very simple, very effective on many species and many types of water. It's not just one fly for one kind of fish in one kind of condition in one part of the world, right? So I think that's what I really like about that style of fly tying. It's effective no matter where you go. One more.
What's it going to be?
Well, it's going to be another Perdigon, but I'm kind of breaking some of the Perdigon laws and rules here. Because we're going to add on another. Well, sure, yeah. I mean, get out there and experiment, right? And, live a little. Let me just grab a bead here. I really like this one because I can add in ribbon without changing the profile, without encumbering the fly. You've all heard me talk about this material. People are still trying to figure out what it's about, how to use it. It's very, very simple. Very easy material to work with. I'm just going to start the pattern again. Add in tail again. Got glue on fiber go. I'm kind of excited about this material, not just because of the transparent portion of it, but it just leaves a very low profile to the fly. It gives it good segmentation. So, the perfect quills, which I'm sort of pushing and promoting for about 3 years. This one has a taper built into the cut. You can see it's a very narrow, fine taper. I'm just going to add that. You have to figure out sort of how much space you want between the segmenting. So you need to figure out where you want to add this on. And the quill itself. Most people lay it in on the side. I just lay it in on top. And down, touching turns. This is also coming out in what's called a peccary color combination. So we just like using peccary hair. Just barred in the same fashion. Barred the same colors as a natural Peccary. My twists in there.
Is there a place in time that you would tie a perdigon without a tail? Like a
Could be more of a grub or a larva then,
Okay.
rather than something that would imitate a mayfly type of nymph. So yeah, you could, by all means, but you wouldn't, you wouldn't be imitating a mayfly anymore. You'd probably be imitating a caddis larva or possibly a pupa. Probably not so much, but certainly a larva. Again, how long, how short, how stout, how narrow do you build that foot now? But yeah, some of the old carrot flies that were tied in that fashion didn't have tails and represented caddis larva for the most part. So yeah, you certainly could. Center weighted bobbins are kind of nice for spinning. Spin really easily. So the distance is getting shorter and shorter. I'm looking forward to only 1/16 of an inch from that bead. So you're thinking all we're going to do is just wrap this other thing around, which we can, absolutely. But we can also put. Remember how we did that mylar strip across the top earlier? Okay, so now this has a sticky adhesive on the one side. Now we can just do rib without building up a bunch of body. It's all laying flat. So is that still a Perdigon? Might be leaning a little bit more to the Frenchy side of things, right? And just for fun, what I like about the transparent colors is I can decide what the undertone color is going to be. I can decide if it's yellow, tans, browns, mylar, no mylar. The underbody allows you to be extremely creative with a clear, transparent rib material. That upside down to dry. You're smiling. How come?
It's cool.
Yeah, it's different, right?
It's art.
Yeah,
Yeah, define living.
the only place this is limited is where your mind doesn't allow you to go.
Mm-hmm.
It's endless. It's absolutely endless. This is why I teach tying techniques and procedures. I don't teach recipes because the recipe doesn't matter. It makes no difference. Tie whatever you want to suit your needs, to suit your bugs. And with any material, just learn how to manipulate your materials. Learn your tying techniques and procedures. That's what tying techniques and procedures is what makes you a fly tyer. And how well you manipulate material, not a recipe. And as my pastor would say, there ends the lesson.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you. Well, I hope everyone got something out of that and was of some help. Feel free to rewatch us if you like. Drop by Reid's Fly Shop. We've got a great selection of all the product lines and all the stuff we play with and work with here today. So, yeah, thanks again for tuning in. Have a great day.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks.
You're welcome.